Hello and welcome to a new reading vlog. So today I am reading the rest of the books that I purchased from the Metropolis bookstore. So these ones were what I considered a bit more risque, a bit more full on, a bit more weird. Are they the most messed up, freaky deaky books that were in the store? No. I thought about it. I thought about, shall I just get the most depraved books I can find? But I couldn't do it to myself. I thought, hey, you enjoy your good mental health. Let's not with that too much. Still, after the last vlog, which was the strange and unusual books, ones that, were a bit odd and kooky, but I thought, I might still enjoy them. And having most of those be very, very low rated and hard to stomach, I was absolutely petrified for this set of books. And with reason. So I have already read them all, and I'm going to talk to you about them in order from worst to best. Keep in mind, these are not books that I would say are to my taste. I am not probably the right audience for these. So take my ratings with a pinch of salt. I am reading so far. Hello, beautiful girl. Let's get her in there a little bit. Hello. She's so cute. You're so cute. I love you so much. I forgot what I was saying. The cat cuteness has overloaded my brain. So let me talk to you about the books that I did read, and we'll start in order from worst to best. So here we have Generation Bloodbath by Paul Curran. So I'm going to show you how this is written because it's got a very unique style. So there are basically 666 of these little snippets of a post-apocalyptic world. I will just randomly read one to you. 352. Willful ignorance is a byproduct of brain mechanics over which people cannot be expected to exercise control, so our moral and legal judgments rest on bloody ground. There was a lot of talk about blood in this, and violence, and Sabbath, bloody Sabbaths, and temples burned marijuana to cover the smell of the living eating the dead. It is bleak and depressing and grotesque, and it lost me way before the aborted fetus bukkake moment. I don't really have much else to say about it because I don't get it. It's very bizarre, it's unique, but it's definitely not my cup of tea. I don't know who I would recommend this for. It's got great ratings on Goodreads. I'll read the first person's review who rated it 5 stars. Rabid virus bloodbaths splashing black rain while corpses compress and ashes allow the entry of goons gone hollow. I saw the bloody stump etched in my memory as the ships left. Apocalypse whenever, but I think we were destiny. If this sounds interesting to you, check it out, but I gave this a 1 star. And then we have Notice by Heather Lewis. I love this cover. I think it's very, very eye-catching. I'm such a sucker for black and pink. This book is about a character who is a sex worker, and one day she is invited by a client to go back to his house with him and his wife and to stay with them so they can sort of play out certain family dynamics with her. Other things end up happening, which it's not on the blurb, so I can't say much about it unless it's written on Goodreads. Nope, it's not on there either. Sometimes I get confused because some reviewers will talk about the other plot points and I think, oh, it must be not a spoiler, but no, it's a spoiler. Look, this has so many dark themes, a lot to do with sex, and please read all the trigger warnings. The biggest issue I had with this was the fact that the writing didn't really do anything for me. It's quite lackluster, but also the main character was so affectless, really deadpan, emotionless, stoic, and it made it even more confusing when these horrible things were happening and she's just quite robotic about everything. There are romances in this, really questionable ones, especially in regards to consent, sapphic stuff in this. A lot of, like I said, those sexual violence, graphic on-page rape. So once again, I'm not sure who I would recommend this for at all. Like I said, pretty cover, but I didn't enjoy anything about it, so that's why I gave it a 1 star. The next book is The World Below by David Peake. This is a thriller So it is, well, the synopsis says witches, LSD psychosis, and the slippery nature of truth. But to me, this was basically like Romeo and Juliet, but add a murderous LSD trip. So you've got two teenagers who come from warring families. It's contemporary though, where basically these families have killed members of each other's families and a massacre occurs. And it's going back and forth in time to someone who's currently incarcerated and then recounting the experience of what really happened. There are supernatural elements in this. It's very odd and strange. Once again, it didn't really do much for me, and I'm not sure who I would recommend it to. If you want like a really twisted version of Romeo and Juliet with a lot of dead babies and houses built upon tombs, this might be for you. But it wasn't to my liking. And now we have Milky Way by Miguel Villa. This is a graphic novel. I have to be very careful what page I show you for the illustration. So we'll start with some benign ones, just so you can get a taste of the style. Oh, can't do that one. Okay, this one's not bad. Nope, can't do that one. Or that one. Or that one. This one's okay. Look, the illustration style is lovely. Yeah, I really can't just I cannot show you. This is for all of the milky titty lovers out there. It really solidified for me that I know with absolute certainty that I am not into lactating breast kink. If you like breastfeeding boobies, squirting milk, you will enjoy this. It does include a lot of images of various Pornhub searches. It is very pornographic explicitly. The characters in this are all despicable, absolutely despicable. So the story of this is you've got a couple and the guy is having difficulty getting it up. The girlfriend is getting frustrated. She's currently babysitting for a woman who has a baby, and they are awful about how they describe her. She's basically told to be an absolute troll, and the illustrations do make her look that way. And then one day something happens to the girlfriend and he decides to help her out by offering to take over the babysitting. It turns out that he has a milky titty kink and proceeds to explore that with this particular woman. It's basically a whole ton of smut and infidelity and sex kinks. It's like I said, oh my god. So I cannot. I wanted to show you some of the illustrations because the illustrations I do like the color story. No, it is an R-rated graphic novel book. I've given it 2.5 stars, and I said it's not because of the storyline or the characters or the themes being explored. It's just the illustration style and the color scheme was pretty, and it was easy to get through. It wasn't hard to read in that respect. But this is obviously for a very particular audience, or I guess for people that are curious or that want to see naughty pictures in a graphic novel. That was Milky Way. We then have Kind Mirrors Ugly Ghosts by Claire Donato. So I'm going to show you, this is a mixed media book as well. So sometimes you get little images. So here we've got ice cream. On this page you have images of bees boinking. And on here we have screen captures of a YouTube video. Sometimes it contains links. This book also contains recipes. It's basically a bunch of fictional mini essays about random shit. So kind of stream of conscious. I'll read you a little bit so you can see what I mean. Your hair is very long. I love it, my acupuncturist says. I love touching it, my acupuncturist says, running 2 hands through my very long hair. But can't I get myself off using a vegetable? I ask. Can't I come alone and fill this chasm in the company of plants? Whereupon my fern spored, I autoerotically induced an emptiness that resulted in my crying in the shower for quite some time. This scene lasted for at least 7 minutes. Subsequently, I changed the cat's litter, emptied it into a bag, then tied the bag into a knot. Surely I can get myself off, I think. I think with my long hair. I with my very long hair. The climax may not be impressive, but it will provide a window into the everyday experience of being left alone. Once again, I didn't get it. I did not get it. I liked the mixed media aspect. I like this book, like the way it feels and its formatting, but I don't know. I don't know what it was trying to say. I didn't find it all that compelling or fascinating or interesting. It just didn't do anything for me. The cover is cool. I do like the cover, but that's about where my enjoyment ends. It's a 2.5 stars for me. And like I said, I really don't know how to recommend these books to people. I don't know. But if you thought that paragraph was interesting, maybe check it out. But it says that it is a book that contemplates grief and disgust in heterosexuality, deconstructing the romance myth and the illicit fantasies which reflect our haunted selves. Kind mirrors ugly ghosts. The next book that I picked up is Patricia Lockwood's Motherland, Fatherland, Homelandsexuals. So this is a book of poetry. Most of it did absolutely nothing for me except for one poem which I thought was really well done, and that is called Rape Joke, and I believe it's actually quite well known. It went viral. I think it was published individually. So that poem was executed amazingly, and I think it was very well done in regards to the topic it was writing about. So that poem was spectacular. The rest of it I just don't understand. Once again, a lot of these books just go right over my head. This was one of them. Look, it's an easy read. I'll say that. The poems are quite dense though, so they're almost like mini, what would you call that? Like a mini prose. So they're not as easy to read, I guess, as other poetry might be. But I think Patricia Lockwood is quite popular. I haven't read any of her other work. This was the first one. I might try one more thing of theirs because, like I said, there were parts in here that I could see might be good. I don't know, that sounds awful, but there were glimpses of like creative writing that I enjoyed in this, and the way that certain things were constructed. I just didn't enjoy the subject matter of this particular book, but there's another one called Priest Daddy at my library, so I'm going to check that one out just to give this author another shot. But yeah, this was Motherland, Fatherland, Homelandsexuals. Then we've got Whorephobia by Lizzie Borden, Strippers on Art, Work and Life. So this is an anthology. This is so gorgeously floppy and it's got a beautiful rose petal finish on the cover. This is basically a collection of stories from strippers, go-go dancers and burlesque dancers. Spoiler alert, most of these women do end up partaking in penetrative sex acts in here. So they each tell a story about their work and then it's followed up by an interview. So they're interviewed afterwards. I did find some of the interviews were repetitive because a lot of them asked, for instance, why did you get into stripping? Or how did stripping inform the rest of your life? And things like that. So the interviews did feel a little bit repetitive. But otherwise, I fairly enjoyed it. It was easy to read. I've given it 3 stars, I would say. It was interesting to see the different types of women and how they responded to their experiences. A lot of the experiences are quite similar, as you can probably imagine being in that industry, especially to do with law enforcement, which was sickening. But yeah, overall though, it is depressing. It just made me feel sad. And I know that the money is good for the most part, but I don't feel like the environment is a safe one, and a lot of these women are exploited. But like I said, it's a whole range of different stories from different women. So if you're interested in sex work, in terms of the more socially acceptable or legal forms of sex work, so honey, she got herself tangled up. Have to keep an eye on that. You can't be tangled up in the vines, babes. And the last book that I read, and my favorite read of the bunch, is MythLab, Theories of Plastic Love by Jack Skelly. It's got a very cool cover. This is the back. Once again, this is a rose petal finish. I gave this book a 3 stars. So it's a bunch of different stories. I will tell you some of the names of them. The Clown Dimensions of Uncanny Valley, Rendezvous with God MILF, My Beloved Mutilated Saint, TikTok Alarm Clock. For me, this is glossolalia, but high on their own supply. It's kind of feminist, sci-fi, erotica, on DMT, with a lot of nerd and pop culture references. Kind of zeitgeist, but written by a fucked up AI. There are cool pictures in here. So they've got illustrations before the mini stories. So I'll show you some of them. I will read you one of the opening paragraphs so you can get an idea of the style. The style does vary slightly between each story, but overall this is the flavour. Not until the wormhole ripped the curtain wall of the vagina dream cave through time and space did I see in sublimoscope this majorly slurpy suck into the fuckable crevices of the cutieverse. Now here, lofted, I peer into a woman cult continent and then entire planet, that capsized mansplaining and manspreading of religion cum rationalism bent on colonizing and commodifying indigenous minds. Instead, this ancient vaginalization scientifically empathied a badass, carnal-powered and star-firing femme-techtopia. Long before we were Leonardo da Vinci'd, 'twas twats who conquered world then space travel, and they infinitely Madonna'd me, and Beyoncé'd me. They Kardashian'd me, and they car-crashed me into sapphire satellites of pure love. Look, I don't know, I found it somewhat entertaining. It's trippy, it's weird, but out of all of the books I read, it was probably the most enjoyable. I've never read anything like it, so once again, it was quite unique. All of these books are quite unique and strange in their stories and the way that they're told. The language in this is full on. It kind of feels upbeat and joyous though, like manic. It does feel manic. It's wild. Like I said, a lot of sex stuff in this. What does the blurb say? Okay, it's a genre-defined sex trip to post-human dimensions. If C.G. Jung, magic mushroom shaman Terence McKenna, and Camille Paglia had a three-way while binging on George Batal and undergoing hormone replacement therapy, their baby might be the erotic cocktail of MythLab. Yeah, so that's what this was about. And yeah, those were all of the reads for this particular. So out of this stack, if I was going to recommend one, it'd be this one. The rest of them I would have preferred not to have read and not to have spent my hard-earned money on. I definitely will not be doing any vlogs like this where I purchase really fucking weird books. Because yeah, I just think, oh, how many cute outfits could I have gotten for this stack? A lot. But I thought, you know, maybe there's something out in here that really calls to someone and they wouldn't have found it otherwise. Look, it was an interesting experience. I'll definitely say that. I still, like I said, love that bookstore. And there are a lot of other really weird books that I have tagged to borrow from my library, but that did seem really interesting to me, whereas I picked these based on how bizarre I found them to be or how shocking in their content. But there was other stuff that was actually quite fascinating, still on, I guess, fringe or taboo kind of subject matters. But yeah, I can dip like my toe into the surface level of books like this, but my God, I can't even imagine what those other books would have been like that I thought were just real heavy and messed up. I don't know. My psyche just can't handle that stuff. It bums me out quite a bit. Like, especially this one. This one was a hard pill to swallow, and I felt like after reading most of these that I needed to take a shower and like cleanse my aura of all of the weird energy of a lot of this stuff. But yeah, like except for this one, because this one was fun. It was fun. But those were all of the really weird books that I've never heard of before. And let me know if you've read a really weird book down below, or if you've read a really weird book but that you thought was fantastic. And until next time, stay wild, star child.